What if our understanding of ancient technology is fundamentally wrong? What if a device more complex than anything seen for the next 1,000 years was already in existence 2,000 years ago? This is not a fictional tale, but the astonishing true story of the Antikythera mechanism, an artifact so advanced it has been called the world's first analog computer. Discovered in a shipwreck off a remote Greek island, this corroded piece of bronze shattered the long-held belief that the ancients were technologically primitive. It stands as a silent mechanical witness to a lost age of scientific brilliance. The story begins in the spring of 1900, when a group of Greek sponge divers was blown off course by a storm near the tiny island of Antikythera between Crete and the Peloponnese. Seeking shelter, they dove into the waters and stumbled upon a wreck of a Roman cargo ship, dating from around 70 to 60 BCE. The initial salvage operation, led by the Greek government, yielded a spectacular treasure trove: bronze and marble statues, glassware, pottery, and coins. Among these priceless artifacts was a seemingly unremarkable calcified lump of bronze and wood, no larger than a shoebox, which was initially overlooked in the excitement of the more magnificent finds. For decades, this enigmatic object sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, catalogued simply and largely ignored, its immense secret hidden beneath centuries of marine encrustation. It was just a corroded mass, a curious footnote to a grander discovery, and its true nature remained completely unsuspected by the archaeological world. However, in the early 1950s, a British physicist and historian of science named Derek de Solla Price became fascinated by the artifact. He noticed faint traces of gear wheels and inscriptions, suggesting a mechanical purpose that defied all expectations of ancient craftsmanship. Price's initial investigations were hampered by the technology of the time, but he was convinced he was looking at something extraordinary. The true breakthrough finally came in 1971, when Price, working with Greek researchers, used powerful gamma radiography to peer inside the corroded lump. The images they produced sent shockwaves through the academic community, revealing a stunningly complex internal structure of interlocking gears, dials, and finely inscribed text. This was not a simple astrolabe or a navigational instrument. This was a sophisticated mechanical device of unparalleled intricacy for its era. Modern research has confirmed the mechanism contained at least 30 bronze gears, with some experts suggesting the original count may have been as high as 72. These gears were not crudely made, but precisely cut with triangular teeth, designed to mesh together and transmit motion with mathematical accuracy. The complexity of the gear train rivals that of clocks made in the 18th century, a full millennium and a half later. The device functioned as a hand-operated orrery, a mechanical model of the solar system used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses decades in advance. Perhaps the most shocking feature discovered was a pin and slot mechanism that effectively created a differential gear, a mechanical innovation believed to have been invented in the 19th century. This ancient differential gear was designed to model the complex, variable speed of the Moon as it orbits the Earth, a phenomenon known as its lunar anomaly. The sheer ingenuity required to conceive and build such a mechanism in the 1st century BCE challenges the entire linear narrative of technological progress. It suggests a level of mechanical and astronomical genius that was simply not thought to have existed in the ancient world. The front of the mechanism featured a large main dial with 2 concentric scales, an outer adjustable calendar with 365 days, and an inner fixed ring marked with the signs of the zodiac. A single pointer, likely driven by a now-lost hand crank, would have shown the annual progress of the sun against the background of the stars. A second, more complex mechanism moved a separate pointer for the moon, indicating its position on the zodiac and its phase on a small rotating ball, painted half white and half black to mimic its appearance in the sky. Turning the device over, the back face was covered with 2 more intricate spiral dials, each a marvel of data visualization in miniature. The upper back dial was a 5-turn spiral that tracked the metonic cycle, the 19-year period after which the phases of the moon recur on the same days of the solar year. This dial effectively served as a lunar solar calendar, crucial for coordinating festivals and agricultural activities. Inscriptions alongside the dial listed the names of the 12 months of the Corinthian calendar, providing a clue to its place of manufacture. The lower back dial was a 4-turn spiral that displayed the Saros cycle, an 18-year, 11-day period used to predict eclipses. This dial had a smaller subsidiary dial inside it that tracked the exeligmos cycle, a period of 54 years and 33 days, which was used to correct for the fact that eclipses in the Saros cycle occur about 8 hours later each time. An additional 4-dial indicator, now lost, is believed to have tracked the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. The mechanism was, in essence, a multifunctional astronomical calculator. Thousands of characters of ancient Greek text were inscribed upon the protective covers of the device and on the dials themselves. These inscriptions functioned as a comprehensive instruction manual, explaining the operation of the dials and the astronomical cycles they represented. They described the motion of the sun, moon, and the 5 known planets, and even provided details about the expected color and size of solar and lunar eclipses. The text is a dense blend of technical data and cosmological philosophy, revealing the sophisticated scientific knowledge of its creators. The question of who built this mechanical masterpiece remains a subject of intense scholarly debate, though most evidence points to the Hellenistic world of ancient Greece. The most likely theory suggests it was crafted on the island of Rhodes, a renowned center of astronomy and mechanical engineering in the 1st century BCE. Some researchers believe the astronomical data encoded in the gear ratios may have come directly from the work of Hipparchus, considered by many to be the greatest astronomer of antiquity. While no direct proof exists, the connection to Hipparchus's school is a compelling hypothesis. Another tantalizing link is to the legendary genius Archimedes of Syracuse, who lived a century before the shipwreck. The Roman statesman Cicero, writing in the 1st century BCE, described a device made by Archimedes that showed the motions of the sun, moon, and 5 planets on a single turn. Cicero even claimed to have seen a similar device himself, brought to Rome after the sack of Syracuse. It is possible that the Antikythera mechanism was a direct descendant of this tradition of Archimedean planetaria, representing a pinnacle of a forgotten technological lineage. The most profound mystery is why this technology was lost and not replicated for another 1,500 years. The prevailing theory is that devices like this were exceedingly rare, expensive luxury items, perhaps unique commissions for a wealthy patron. The knowledge required to build them may have been confined to a very small, exclusive guild of engineers and astronomers, and the techniques were never documented in widely accessible texts. The subsequent political and social upheavals of the Roman Empire and the onset of the Middle Ages likely severed this fragile chain of knowledge forever. Cicero's accounts are crucial because they suggest the Antikythera mechanism was not an entirely isolated phenomenon, at least in concept. He wrote of a bronze device made by Archimedes and another by Posidonius that represented the movements of the sun and moon and of those 5 stars which are called wanderers. The fact that a Roman politician could describe such devices implies they were known, at least among the elite, in the centuries leading up to the creation of the Antikythera mechanism. Yet, the Antikythera find remains the only physical example of this technology ever discovered. In the 21st century, the secrets of the mechanism continue to be unlocked through the use of cutting-edge technology. The Antikythera Mechanism Research Project, an international team of scientists, used a high-resolution, 8-ton X-ray computed tomography scanner to create detailed 3-dimensional images of the artifact. This non-invasive technique allowed researchers to see through the layers of corrosion and read inscriptions that had been completely invisible for over 2,000 years. The CT scans provided an unprecedented look at the internal structure and confirmed the existence of even more gears. The latest revelations from these scans have only deepened the mystery surrounding the device. Researchers discovered a previously unknown dial, a so-called dial for the games, which predicted the dates of the Pan-Hellenic Games, including the Olympics, the Pythian, the Nemean, and the Isthmian Games. Furthermore, previously unreadable fragments of inscriptions were deciphered, revealing that the mechanism may have also had pointers for the planets Mars and Venus, making it an even more complete model of the cosmos. Each new discovery seems to push the boundaries of ancient scientific achievement further. The ultimate shock of the Antikythera mechanism is its profound challenge to our historical timeline. It is not a computer in the modern sense, but a mechanical model of the universe, built with a precision and theoretical understanding that should not have existed in the 1st century BCE. Its mechanical sophistication is comparable to astronomical clocks built in Europe in the 14th century. This single artifact forces a radical reevaluation of the capabilities of ancient Greek science and engineering, suggesting a level of intellectual and practical achievement far beyond what was previously believed possible. The Antikythera mechanism is a fragment of a lost history, a mechanical ghost from a past more technologically advanced than we ever imagined. It is a silent testament to a sophistication that flourished and then vanished, leaving no apparent trace in the historical record. Its discovery compels us to question what other knowledge, what other wonders of the ancient world have been lost to the ravages of time. What other secrets lie buried beneath the earth or hidden in museum basements, waiting to be found and to challenge our entire story of human progress? The answer to that question lies not in the sea, but high in the clouds, nestled in the breathtaking Andes Mountains of Peru. It is a place of myth and staggering beauty, a stone city that was lost to the world for centuries. This is Machu Picchu, the legendary citadel of the Inca Empire, whose rediscovery in the early 20th century rewrote the history of the Americas. Its existence challenges our perception of the past, just as profoundly as the gears of the Antikythera mechanism. It is a testament to a civilization that achieved mastery over stone and landscape in ways we are only now beginning to fully comprehend. The man who brought Machu Picchu to the world's attention was Hiram Bingham III, an American historian and lecturer at Yale University. In 1911, Bingham led an expedition through Peru, but he was not searching for a lost city in the clouds. His original quest was to find Vilcabamba, the last capital of the Inca kings, where they made their final stand against the Spanish conquistadors. Guided by a local farmer named Melchor Arteaga and a young boy, Bingham embarked on a grueling climb up a steep, jungle-covered mountain. On a damp morning in July, he pushed through thick vegetation and emerged into a clearing to witness an unforgettable sight. There before him, shrouded in mist, were the ruins of a magnificent stone city, its walls and terraces cascading down the mountainside. The structures were overgrown with moss and tangled vines, but their elegant geometry and perfect stonework were unmistakable. Bingham, overwhelmed by the discovery, believed he had found the fabled Vilcabamba. He wrote in his journal that it was an unexpected sight, a great city, built in the most inaccessible place I had ever seen. While his initial conclusion was incorrect, he had stumbled upon something even more extraordinary: a perfectly preserved Inca settlement, untouched by the Spanish conquest. The geography of Machu Picchu is as much a part of its identity as its architecture. It is situated nearly 2,400 meters above sea level on a narrow ridge. This ridge is flanked by two towering peaks, Machu Picchu and Huayna Picchu, and overlooks the sacred Urubamba River. The river carves a dramatic hairpin bend around the mountain, creating a natural moat and a sense of profound isolation. This location was not chosen by chance. It was a deliberate statement of power and a deep connection to the spiritual landscape revered by the Inca. The city itself is ingeniously divided into two main sectors, a large agricultural area and a smaller urban zone. The agricultural sector, which occupies the majority of the land, consists of hundreds of stepped terraces. These terraces are masterpieces of engineering, designed not only for growing crops like maize and potatoes, but also for stabilizing the mountain slopes. They were built with a complex subsurface drainage system to prevent erosion and landslides during the heavy rainy season. This agricultural foundation allowed the city to be self-sufficient, a critical feature for a settlement so remote from the imperial capital of Cusco. Above the terraces lies the urban sector, the heart of the citadel, where its inhabitants lived and worked. This area is organized around a central plaza and features a network of narrow, cobbled streets and staircases. The architecture is defined by its iconic, polished dry stone masonry, where massive blocks of granite are cut and fitted together with such precision that a blade of grass cannot be inserted between them. The buildings feature trapezoidal doors and windows, a design element that makes the structures inherently resistant to the frequent earthquakes that rattle the Andes. It is a city built to endure for eternity. At the core of the urban sector is the Sacred District, the spiritual and ceremonial center of Machu Picchu. This area contains the most revered and finely crafted buildings in the entire complex. The most notable structure is the Temple of the Sun, a semicircular tower built around a sacred rock. Its stonework is the most sophisticated in the city, with curved blocks fitted seamlessly together. During the June solstice, the sun's rays shine directly through a specially aligned window, illuminating the stone within, a powerful demonstration of the Inca's astronomical knowledge. Another enigmatic feature in the Sacred District is the Intihuatana stone, a granite pillar carved with great precision. Its name is often translated as hitching post of the sun, and it served as an astronomical calendar and ritual altar. The angles of its carved sides correspond to key points in the Inca solar year. On the days of the equinoxes, the sun stands directly above the pillar, casting no shadow at midday, creating a powerful visual effect that the Inca believed symbolically tied the sun to the earth. The Intihuatana is one of the few such stones to have survived intact, as the Spanish systematically destroyed them in their religious crusade. The construction of Machu Picchu was an engineering feat of staggering proportions, especially considering the tools available to the Inca. They had no iron, no steel, no wheels, and no draft animals for hauling. The granite for the city was quarried from a mountainside located several hundred meters away. Archaeologists believe the Inca used stone hammers, bronze chisels, and a technique of heating and rapidly cooling the rock to crack it along desired lines. The transportation and lifting of stones, some weighing over 50 tons, remains a subject of awe and speculation, likely accomplished by immense manpower, ropes, levers, and carefully constructed earthen ramps. Beyond the visible structures, the most critical engineering is hidden from view. It is estimated that over 60% of the construction at Machu Picchu is subsurface, an unseen infrastructure that ensures its stability. Deep beneath the plazas and terraces lies a complex network of drainage channels and crushed rock fill. This system expertly channels rainwater away from the city's foundations, preventing the soil from becoming saturated and the mountain from shifting. This hidden genius is the primary reason the city has survived for over 500 years in a seismically active and rain-soaked environment. The question of Machu Picchu's purpose has been the central debate among scholars since its discovery. Hiram Bingham initially theorized it was a sacred nunnery, a refuge for the Virgins of the Sun, a theory supported by the discovery of many female skeletons. However, modern scientific analysis has largely disproven this idea. The skeletons belong to both men and women from diverse geographical locations, likely attendants and specialists serving a higher purpose. Today, the most widely accepted theory is that Machu Picchu was a royal estate, a country palace for the Inca Emperor Pachacuti. This royal estate theory posits that Machu Picchu was built as a private retreat for the Inca ruler and his court. It was a place to escape the political pressures of the capital, Cusco, and to engage in hunting, religious rituals, and administrative duties in a peaceful, sacred setting. The small population, estimated at around 750 people during peak occupation, would have consisted of the emperor's family, priests, and highly skilled artisans. The lack of large-scale food storage facilities further supports the idea that it was not a city intended for permanent, long-term habitation, but rather a seasonal or ceremonial center. Yet, the religious significance of the site cannot be overstated, and it likely served a dual function as both a palace and a major ceremonial center. The precise astronomical alignments of its key structures suggest it was a place for observing celestial events and performing state-sanctioned rituals. The surrounding landscape was imbued with spiritual meaning. The mountains were worshipped as powerful deities, or apus, and the Urubamba River was seen as a terrestrial reflection of the cosmic river in the sky. Machu Picchu was a microcosm of the Inca cosmos, a place where the earthly and divine realms converged. Perhaps the greatest mystery surrounding Machu Picchu is the reason for its abandonment, which seems to have occurred only about 100 years after it was built. The most shocking fact is that the Spanish conquistadors never found it. Its remote location and the secrecy maintained by the local population protected it from the destruction that befell most other Inca sites. The abandonment was likely due to indirect consequences of the Spanish arrival, specifically the devastating epidemics of European diseases like smallpox. These diseases spread far faster than the conquistadors themselves, and it is plausible that a smallpox outbreak wiped out much of Machu Picchu's small population, leading to its quiet desertion. After its inhabitants vanished, the city was quickly swallowed by the dense cloud forest, remaining hidden from the outside world for nearly 4 centuries. Local Quechua farmers knew of its existence, referring to it as Machu Picchu, or Old Peak, but its significance remained a secret. This obscurity proved to be its salvation, protecting it from treasure hunters and the iconoclastic zeal of the Spanish colonial authorities. It remained a silent, green-shrouded ghost town, a perfectly preserved time capsule of Inca civilization, waiting for a chance encounter to bring it back into the light of history. The legacy of Hiram Bingham's discovery is a complex one. He is rightly celebrated as the scientific popularizer who brought Machu Picchu to global consciousness, securing funding for further study and documentation. However, his actions also caused a decades-long controversy. Bingham removed thousands of artifacts, pottery, bones, and metal objects from the site and exported them to Yale University under a contentious agreement with the Peruvian government. After years of diplomatic negotiations, most of these artifacts have finally been returned to Peru and are now housed in a museum in Cusco. In the 21st century, cutting-edge technology is uncovering Machu Picchu's secrets without disturbing its sacred stones. An international team of researchers utilized high-resolution 3D laser scanning and LIDAR, light detection and ranging, to create a complete digital model of the site and its surroundings. This technology has the ability to see through the dense jungle canopy, revealing previously unknown structures, roads, and terraces extending far beyond the core city. These discoveries suggest that Machu Picchu was not an isolated settlement, but the administrative and ceremonial center of a much larger, complex network of satellite communities. Today, Machu Picchu faces a new challenge: its own immense popularity as a tourist destination. Designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1983, it receives over 1 million visitors annually. The constant foot traffic poses a significant threat to the ancient structures, causing erosion and wear on the stone pathways and terraces. In response, the Peruvian government has implemented strict conservation measures, including limiting the number of daily visitors, requiring guided tours, and creating timed entry slots to control the flow of people and protect this irreplaceable wonder for future generations. The enduring power of Machu Picchu lies not just in its stunning beauty or its incredible engineering, but in the questions it leaves unanswered. It is a place that forces a profound reevaluation of the capabilities of the Inca civilization, a society that built one of the world's greatest empires without a written language, without iron tools, and without the wheel. In the perfect fit of its stones, we see a society that valued precision, patience, and harmony with the natural world. It stands as a silent, stone-built rebuke to any simple, linear story of human progress. Each perfectly placed stone in Machu Picchu is a word in a story that was interrupted. The city is a physical embodiment of a worldview where the mountains are gods, the sun is a divine ancestor, and the line between the natural and the supernatural is endlessly blurred. To walk its streets is to step into a different dimension of human experience, one guided by cosmology and shaped by a deep reverence for the earth. It is a place of mystery, not because we know nothing about it, but because what we do know reveals a civilization whose sophistication continues to astonish and inspire awe. The very fact that it was, quote, 6 and then, quote, 7, adds a romantic, almost cinematic layer to its history. The rediscovery was a pivotal moment, a moment when the world was reminded that there were still wonders to be uncovered on this planet. It sparked a global fascination with Inca culture and archaeology that persists to this day. Machu Picchu is more than just a ruin. It is a symbol of discovery, of hidden history, and of the enduring human impulse to explore and understand the past. The agricultural terraces themselves are a marvel of ecological engineering. They were not simply dug into the mountainside, but were constructed with multiple layers of different materials. A base layer of large rocks provided drainage, followed by layers of gravel, sand, and finally, rich topsoil. This sophisticated system prevented waterlogging, frost heave, and erosion, creating stable and productive farmland on an impossibly steep slope. This hidden infrastructure is as impressive as any temple wall, a testament to a society that understood the principles of geology and ecology centuries before these sciences were formally established. The Inca road system, the Capac Ñan, was the arteries of their vast empire, and Machu Picchu was connected to this network by a finely crafted stone trail. Today known as the classic Inca Trail, this path winds its way through mountains and cloud forest over a distance of approximately 43 kilometers. This road was not merely a thoroughfare for travelers, it was a vital link for communication, trade, and military movement. The engineering of these mountain roads, with their retaining walls, stairways, and suspension bridges, was as critical to the Inca state as the buildings it connected. Even after a century of intense archaeological study, Machu Picchu continues to guard its secrets. Within the last few years, ground-penetrating radar has identified potential burial chambers and hidden structures beneath the main plazas. Each new discovery adds another layer of complexity to our understanding of the site, suggesting that the city we see today is only part of the story. It is a living landscape where the past is not a static monument, but a dynamic puzzle that is still being pieced together. Machu Picchu remains a frontier of discovery, a place where the next great find could still be just beneath our feet. Ultimately, Machu Picchu endures as the ultimate symbol of a vanished world, a ghost city in the clouds that speaks to us across the centuries. It is a place that challenges our assumptions about technology, society, and the very nature of civilization. Its discovery was a shock to the established historical narrative, just as the Antikythera mechanism was, proving that the past was far more complex and sophisticated than we could have imagined. It is a monument to the power of human ingenuity, and a poignant reminder that even the greatest empires can fade, leaving behind only echoes in stone, waiting for the world to listen once more. But while some empires leave behind only echoes in stone, others speak to us in a voice of clay, an entire army forged from earth to serve an emperor in the afterlife. In the spring of 1974, in the parched countryside of Lintong district, a group of local farmers were digging a well during a severe drought. Their shovels struck something hard just a few meters beneath the surface, but it was not rock. It was a fragment of a life-sized terracotta figure, a single piece of what would soon be recognized as one of the most staggering archaeological discoveries in human history. This accidental find opened a window directly onto the court of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, revealing an army that had stood silent guard for over 2 millennia. The news sent shockwaves through the global archaeological community, for nothing on this scale had ever been imagined, let alone found. The man who commissioned this vast clay army was Qin Shi Huang, a ruler of unparalleled ambition and ruthless efficiency. Born Ying Zheng, he ascended the throne of the Qin state in 247 BCE at the age of just 13 and immediately began a campaign to conquer all of China's warring states. By 221 BCE, he had succeeded, unifying the fragmented country under a single imperial banner for the first time, and proclaiming himself Qin Shi Huang, the first sovereign emperor of the Qin dynasty. His legacy was one of immense and brutal transformation. he connected disparate fortifications to create the first iteration of the Great Wall, standardized weights, measures, currency, and the written script, and consolidated his power with an iron fist. Yet, his greatest project was not for this world, but for the next, a testament to his obsessive quest for eternal life and dominion. The excavation that followed the farmer's initial find revealed not a single tomb, but a vast subterranean complex covering an estimated 22 square miles.
At its heart are 4 main pits, 3 of which contain the terracotta army, arranged with military precision in a formation facing east, towards the lands conquered by the emperor. Pit 1, the largest and most impressive, is a massive columned vault containing over 6,000 infantry soldiers, chariots, and horses arranged in battle formation. Pit 2 is a more complex L-shaped pit, revealing a mixed force of cavalry, archers, and infantry units, showcasing the diversity and tactical sophistication of the Qin military. The third, much smaller pit appears to be a command post, containing 68 high-ranking officers and a war chariot, while the fourth pit was found empty, perhaps left unfinished upon the emperor's sudden death. What truly astonished the archaeologists was the sheer individuality of each warrior. No two faces are exactly alike. Standing at an average height of 180 centimeters, the soldiers were originally equipped with real bronze weapons, including swords, spears, crossbows, and battle axes. They represent a cross-section of the Qin army, from high-ranking generals with their distinctive caps and double-layered robes, to middle-ranking officers, armored infantrymen, and even archers in kneeling and standing positions, ready to fire. Their hairstyles are also unique and meticulously crafted, reflecting the different ethnic groups and regions within the empire. According to leading experts, this hyper-realism was no accident. It was intended to provide the emperor with a fully functional and realistic army to command in the spiritual realm. For decades, the prevailing theory was that each warrior was individually sculpted, a monument to the artistry of countless unnamed craftsmen. However, modern research and high-resolution 3D scanning have revealed a more complex and efficient process of assembly line production. It appears the workers used a library of 10 basic face molds, which were then customized by hand with clay to add individual details like wrinkles, scars, and unique expressions. The bodies were also constructed in a modular fashion, with legs, torsos, arms, and heads being made separately and then assembled before firing. This incredible system allowed for the creation of an army that was both uniquely individualistic and mass-produced, a feat of ancient industrial organization that speaks volumes about the power and resources of the Qin state. It was a perfect blend of artistry and industry. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of the discovery, and one that unfolded within minutes of excavation, was the loss of the warriors' original color. When they were first created, each figure was coated with a layer of lacquer and then painted in brilliant, lifelike colors: purple, red, green, blue, white, and black. Tragically, the sudden change in humidity and temperature when they were unearthed caused the thin lacquer layer to curl and flake off, taking the vibrant pigments with it and leaving behind only the terracotta clay. Today, archaeologists working at the site employ cutting-edge preservation techniques, excavating new figures with specially designed tools, and applying chemical consolidants the moment they are exposed to the air. The painstaking work has managed to preserve traces of the original color on a few newly unearthed warriors, offering a breathtaking glimpse into how this magnificent army must have looked when it was first entombed. The weapons themselves represent a level of technological sophistication that challenges our understanding of the ancient world. The bronze swords found with the warriors were discovered to be remarkably sharp and free of rust, a condition attributed to a protective coating of chromium oxide. This is a form of chrome plating technology that was not patented in the West until the early 20th century, more than 2,000 years later. The crossbows were marvels of engineering, with complex trigger mechanisms and a power and accuracy that made them the deadliest weapons of their time. Analysis of the bronze arrowheads shows a startling degree of standardization in size and weight. indicating a state-controlled manufacturing process with strict quality control, an ancient precursor to the modern industrial assembly line. The terracotta army, however, is merely the outer guard for the emperor's true necropolis, which remains unexcavated under a massive pyramid-shaped tomb mound at the foot of Mount Li. According to the account of the historian Sima Qian, writing a century after the emperor's death, the tomb is a microcosm of the emperor's empire, complete with palaces, pavilions, and offices. He described rivers of liquid mercury, mechanically pumped to flow and map out the empire's major waterways, with a ceiling painted to look like the heavens and the floor representing the earth. For centuries, this account was considered mere legend, but modern scientific surveys have detected concentrations of mercury in the soil of the tomb mound that are many times higher than the natural background level, lending startling credibility to the ancient texts. The decision not to excavate the central tomb is one of the most debated topics in modern archaeology. The primary reason is the immense technological challenge. The tomb is believed to contain countless treasures made of organic materials like silk, lacquerware, and wooden scrolls, which would instantly decay upon exposure to air. The experience at Pompeii and with the painted warriors has taught archaeologists a harsh lesson about the fragility of the past. Until a technology is developed that can perfectly preserve the tomb's contents as soon as the chamber is opened, Chinese authorities have declared that the tomb will remain sealed. It is a decision born of profound respect and caution, choosing to preserve a mystery rather than risk destroying an irreplaceable treasure through premature excavation. The construction of this entire complex was a monumental undertaking that consumed the lives of an estimated 700,000 laborers over nearly 40 years. Artisans and craftsmen were conscripted from all over the empire to work on the project, and recent discoveries suggest that many of them may have been buried alive alongside the emperor to keep the location of his treasures a secret. Inscriptions found on some terracotta figures reveal the names of the foremen in charge of their creation, a system of accountability to ensure quality. This was not just a tomb, it was a state-sponsored industry, a final, grand project of an emperor whose rule was defined by massive, transformative constructions, both above and below the ground. The discovery of the terracotta army has fundamentally reshaped our understanding of the Qin dynasty and the dawn of imperial China. Before 1974, historical knowledge of this period was almost entirely based on later, often hostile, historical texts written by scholars of the succeeding Han dynasty. These accounts portrayed Qin Shi Huang as a brutal tyrant, and while there is no doubt his rule was harsh, the army reveals a level of artistic, technological, and organizational brilliance that was previously unappreciated. It proves that the Qin state was not just a military machine, but also a sophisticated civilization capable of producing breathtaking works of art on an unimaginable scale, forcing a re-evaluation of one of history's most maligned rulers. Today, the mausoleum of the first Qin emperor, including the terracotta army, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a symbol of Chinese national pride, attracting millions of visitors from around the world each year. The site hosts one of the most active archaeological research centers globally, where scientists continue to use advanced technologies like ground-penetrating radar and DNA analysis to uncover new secrets. They are piecing together the supply chains for the clay, identifying the geographical origins of the craftsmen through chemical analysis of the pigments, and even studying the skeletons of other buried workers to learn about their lives and diets. The excavation is far from over, with the vast majority of the complex still untouched, promising new discoveries for generations to come. The enduring power of the terracotta army lies in its silent, eternal vigil. Standing in the vast hangar-like museums built over the excavation pits, one is confronted by the sheer scale of the emperor's ambition. Each warrior, with his unique face and ready stance, seems to carry the weight of a forgotten story, a life of service and preparation for a journey into the great beyond. They are a frozen moment in time, a perfect army waiting for a command that will never come from an emperor who has long since turned to dust. It is a profound and humbling experience, a confrontation with the grandeur and folly of human ambition on a scale that is difficult to comprehend.
In the silent ranks of the clay soldiers, we see the ultimate symbol of a ruler who sought to conquer not only the world of the living, but also the world of the dead. The army was his insurance policy, his guarantee of eternal dominion, a clay and bronze testament to a belief that power and prestige could physically cross the veil of death. While Qin Shi Huang's search for an elixir of immortality ultimately failed, in a way, he succeeded. He may not have lived forever, but his vision, his power, and his name have been immortalized by the incredible army he built to serve him. The discovery of his silent guardians was a shock that revealed a hidden chapter of human history, as profound in its own way as the Antikythera mechanism or Machu Picchu. The mystery of the central tomb continues to captivate the imagination, representing one of the last great archaeological frontiers on Earth. What wonders lie within? Do the rivers of Mercury truly flow? Is there a model of the universe, complete with pearls for stars? These questions remain unanswered, a deliberate choice to protect the past from the present. It is a time capsule waiting for a future generation, perhaps with technologies we cannot yet conceive, to finally unseal its secrets. Until that day, the first emperor continues to rest in his splendor, guarded by an army of clay, his greatest and most shocking gift to posterity still hidden beneath the soil of Shaanxi. While the first emperor's army was a testament to an attempt at eternal life through clay, high in the Alps, another man had achieved a different kind of immortality through ice. The year was 1991, and in the Ötztal Alps, on the border between Austria and Italy, two German hikers, Helmut and Erika Simon, made a gruesome discovery. Melting snow had revealed a human body, face down and frozen into the ice, its upper torso protruding from the glacial meltwater. Initial reports assumed it was the body of a modern-day mountaineer, perhaps a musician who had gone missing decades earlier, as a crude-looking axe was found nearby. Authorities were called, and the clumsy recovery process began, using a jackhammer and ice pick, inadvertently damaging the find before its true age was even suspected. As the body and a collection of artifacts were airlifted to the town of Vent in Austria, archaeologist Konrad Spindler from the University of Innsbruck was called in to examine them. He quickly realized that the objects were not modern relics. The axe was made of copper, not steel, and the arrows were tipped with flint. The design of these tools pointed to an origin not in the 20th century, but thousands of years in the past. The scientific community was stunned when radiocarbon dating of the body and organic materials confirmed Spindler's initial shock. The man frozen in the ice had died sometime around 3,300 BCE, making him over 5,000 years old, the oldest natural human mummy ever discovered in Europe. He was given the name Ötzi after the Ötztal Alps where he was found, and he quickly became a scientific superstar, a messenger from the Copper Age. Ötzi was approximately 1.6 meters tall, weighed around 50 kilograms, and was about 45 years old when he died, a respectable age for his era. Analysis of his genome revealed he had brown eyes, type O blood, was lactose intolerant, and was genetically predisposed to heart disease. His dental health was poor, with severe gum disease and several cavities, likely caused by a diet rich in starchy grains. He was not a primitive brute, but a complex individual whose DNA links him to modern-day inhabitants of Sardinia and Corsica, providing a vital clue to ancient European migration patterns. Perhaps the most intriguing personal details are the 61 tattoos scattered across his body, which are not decorative but therapeutic in appearance. These markings, made by rubbing charcoal into incisions, consist of simple lines, crosses, and stripes, mostly located on his lower back, knees, wrists, and ankles. Many of these tattoos correspond to acupuncture points used to treat ailments like back pain and arthritis, conditions that modern scans have confirmed Ötzi suffered from. This suggests a sophisticated knowledge of anatomy and a form of ancient medicinal practice that predates similar concepts in Asia by thousands of years. His body was a living map of his ailments, a testament to a hard life spent in a challenging environment, and he carried with him his own form of medical chart. The true shock of the discovery, however, lay not just in the man himself, but in the astonishingly complete survival of his personal equipment,
a time capsule of Copper Age survival gear. His clothing was a masterclass in prehistoric engineering, designed for warmth and mobility in the high mountains. He wore a bearskin cap, a long coat made of alternating goat and sheepskin, a belt pouch, leggings made from domesticated goat hide, and sophisticated shoes fashioned from deerskin uppers and bearskin soles, stuffed with hay for insulation. This was not the random attire of a savage, but the specialized gear of an experienced high-altitude traveler, a man who understood his environment intimately and was perfectly equipped to survive it. Around his body was a toolkit that would make any modern survivalist envious, revealing a level of technological sophistication that reshaped our understanding of the Copper Age. His most famous and significant possession was his axe, with a copper blade nearly 11 centimeters long, hafted onto a U-handle with leather straps and birch tar. This was not a mere tool for chopping wood. It was a high-status weapon and symbol of power, proving that metal smelting and casting were advanced in Europe much earlier than previously thought. He also carried a longbow made from yew, which was unfinished, and a quiver containing 14 arrows, only 2 of which were ready to be fired, hinting at a recent conflict or a hasty retreat. His personal effects paint a detailed portrait of his final days and his life skills. Tucked into his belt pouch were a variety of indispensable items, including a flint-tipped dagger with an ash-wood handle, a retoucher made of deer antler for sharpening his flint tools, and 2 pieces of birch fungus. This fungus, known as birch polypore, has antibacterial properties and was likely used as a prehistoric form of penicillin to treat wounds or perhaps to start fires. He also carried a complex birch bark container, which held glowing embers wrapped in fresh maple leaves, allowing him to transport a fire source and quickly start a flame on demand. This was not a man lost and unprepared, but a skilled individual carrying a complete survival system. For a decade after his discovery, the official narrative was that Ötzi, a shepherd or hunter, had been caught in a sudden blizzard and died of hypothermia. It was a plausible, if slightly anticlimactic end to such a remarkable life. The mystery seemed solved, a tragic accident of nature. However, in 2001, a new, high-resolution X-ray analysis revealed a secret so shocking it rewrote the final chapter of Ötzi's story and transformed him from a victim of the weather into the victim of a crime. An international team of scientists discovered a flint arrowhead deep in his left shoulder, a detail that had been missed in every previous examination. The discovery of the arrowhead was a forensic bombshell, a smoking gun frozen in time for over 5 millennia. The arrow had been shot from behind at a downward trajectory, piercing his body and severing the subclavian artery, a major vessel leading from the heart. He would have lost consciousness and bled to death within minutes, a swift and violent death, not a slow, freezing one. The fact that the arrow shaft was missing suggests Ötzi likely pulled it out himself in a final, desperate act before collapsing, leaving the deadly arrowhead lodged in his back. This was not an accident. It was a clear-cut case of homicide, making Ötzi the world's oldest and most well-documented cold case. Further forensic investigation deepened the mystery of his final moments. The contents of his stomach revealed his last meal: ibex meat, red deer, and cultivated einkorn wheat, eaten just a few hours before his death. The presence of wheat, which was grown in the valleys, indicates he had been at a lower altitude shortly before his climb into the mountains. His right hand revealed a deep, defensive wound, suggesting he had been in a physical struggle with an attacker, possibly with a knife, either just before or just after being shot with the arrow. This paints a vivid and violent picture. Ötzi was fleeing from a confrontation, was shot from behind, managed to fight off his assailant briefly, and then stumbled a short distance up the mountain before succumbing to his mortal wound. The question that haunts scientists is not just how he died, but why he was killed in the first place. One prominent theory suggests he was the victim of a personal vendetta, perhaps a clan feud that had simmered for years and finally culminated in an ambush. Another theory posits a political motive. As a man of high status, he could have been a tribal chief, a shaman, or a trader involved in a power struggle. The fact that his valuable copper axe was left with his body argues against a simple robbery,
suggesting the killing was the primary goal. Was he escaping from his own community after committing a crime, or was he a targeted assassination carried out by rivals from a neighboring group? The scientific legacy of Ötzi has been nothing short of revolutionary, providing an unprecedented window into the Chalcolithic period. His genome alone has provided a treasure trove of information, confirming the presence of the Helicobacter pylori bacterium in his stomach, and revealing he was one of the earliest known humans to have Lyme disease. The presence of atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries, shattered the long-held belief that this was a modern disease caused by contemporary lifestyles. His copper axe forced a re-evaluation of the social structure of the time, indicating that trade and metallurgy were far more advanced and complex than archaeologists had previously imagined. Ötzi has become a scientific Rosetta Stone, his body a living document from a lost world. As with any great discovery, a shadow of mystery and folklore grew around him, spawning the legend of the Eight. The main principal characters of his discovery met untimely and sometimes strange deaths. Helmut Simon, the hiker who found Ötzi, died in a blizzard in the same Alps in 2004, just 8 hours after being declared missing. Konrad Spindler, the lead archaeologist, died of complications from multiple sclerosis at the age of 66. An event he eerily predicted when he joked, "While statisticians dismiss the curse as a pattern of coincidence linked to the many people involved, it adds a layer of modern mythology to the ancient mummy." Today, Ötzi rests in a custom-built cold cell at the South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology in Bolzano, Italy. His body kept at a constant temperature of -6 degrees Celsius and 98% humidity. He is no longer a simple archaeological specimen, but a human being from the past, whose entire life and death have been painstakingly reconstructed by science. He has given us his face, his last meal, his health issues, his clothes, his tools, and the very DNA that links him to people living today. In Ötzi, the vast and anonymous expanse of prehistory has been given a name, a face, and a tragic, violent story. He stands as a profound symbol of the continuity of human experience across the ages. A man who felt pain, who ate a hearty meal before a journey, who was sick, and who ultimately became a victim of violence. His discovery was a shock that transcended archaeology, connecting us personally to a single individual who walked the earth 300 generations ago. Ötzi the Iceman is more than just a mummy. He is a time traveler, a messenger, and a murder victim whose final desperate flight up a mountain was frozen in time. A story waiting 5,000 years to be told. His silent, frozen body speaks louder than any textbook, revealing the shocking truth that our ancestors were not so different from us after all. While Ötzi's story reveals the fragility of a single human life, a much older, deeper mystery lay hidden in the very rock beneath our feet. A story of an event that wiped out entire branches of the Tree of Life. For over 150 million years, the dinosaurs had reigned supreme as the dominant terrestrial vertebrates, a diverse and awe-inspiring dynasty of creatures that shaped the planet's ecosystems. Then, 66 million years ago, something happened. In the geological record, this moment is marked by a thin, dark line of clay known as the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary, a line that separates a world of giants from the world that followed. The shocking truth of what created this line would turn out to be a discovery as profound as any in the history of science, revealing a violence on a planetary scale that erased the past and paved the way for our future. The first crucial clue in this ancient whodunit emerged not from a giant fossil, but from a microscopic analysis of a thin band of rock. In the late 1970s, a geologist named Walter Alvarez was studying a sequence of limestone cliffs near Gubbio, Italy, when he noticed a peculiar 1 centimeter thick layer of clay separating the Cretaceous period from the Paleogene. This seemingly insignificant layer marked a precise moment in Earth's history, a boundary below which fossils of foraminifera, a type of plankton, were large and complex, and above which they were small and simple. Intrigued, Walter sought the help of his father, Luis Alvarez,
a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, to analyze the strange clay's composition. Using a technique called neutron activation analysis, they made a staggering discovery. The clay contained an astonishingly high concentration of the element iridium, a metal rare in Earth's crust but common in extraterrestrial bodies like asteroids and comets. Luis Alvarez calculated that the amount of iridium was so high it could only be explained by an extraterrestrial impactor, an object about 10 kilometers in diameter, striking the planet and vaporizing itself, spreading a fine dust of iridium-rich debris across the entire globe. In 1980, the Alvarezes and their colleagues published their groundbreaking hypothesis, proposing that this impact had triggered a mass extinction, the very event that killed off the non-avian dinosaurs. The scientific community met their theory with intense skepticism and debate, as many geologists and paleontologists favored more gradual explanations for the extinction, like massive volcanic eruptions in India known as the Deccan traps. The impact hypothesis, as it came to be known, needed a smoking gun, a piece of physical evidence that could not be denied. If a mountain-sized asteroid had hit the Earth, it must have left behind an equally monstrous crater. Yet for years, no such crater could be found. The search for the crater became the holy grail of geology, a hunt for a ghost scarred into the planet's surface. Scientists knew that 2/3 of the Earth is covered by ocean, increasing the likelihood that the impact site was now buried beneath the waves. As the evidence mounted, other discoveries bolstered the Alvarez theory. Geologists found the KPG boundary layer all over the world, from Denmark to New Zealand, always with that same telltale spike in iridium. More importantly, they began to find other materials that could only have been formed in the unimaginable conditions of an impact, such as shocked quartz, minerals whose crystalline structure had been deformed by immense pressure, and spherules, tiny glass beads formed when molten rock was blasted into the atmosphere and rained back down as solidified droplets. The breakthrough finally came from an unlikely source: the search for oil. In the early 1970s, a geophysicist named Glenn Penfield was working for the Mexican state-owned oil company Pemex, conducting an aerial magnetic survey of the Yucatan Peninsula. His data revealed a massive, symmetrical, semicircular anomaly, a gravitational and magnetic 200 kilometers across, buried beneath a kilometer of sediment. Penfield recognized the signature immediately from his studies of lunar craters. But because the data was considered proprietary by Pemex, he could not publish his findings. It was not until a decade later, after another researcher, Alan Hildebrand, independently found evidence of an impact in the region, that Penfield was able to present his old data, finally pointing the world to the killer's hiding place, a town on the coast called Chicxulub, which in the Yucatec Maya language means the devil's tail. The confirmation that Chicxulub was indeed the KPG impact crater was a monumental undertaking, requiring deep-sea drilling expeditions to extract core samples from the buried structure. These cores told a violent story, showing a layer of chaotic, broken rock called breccia, which is formed when an impact shatters the ground into millions of pieces. Crucially, analysis of the melt rock within the breccia dated it precisely to 66 million years ago, the exact age of the extinction. The crater itself is even larger than initially thought, with a diameter of approximately 180 kilometers, making it one of the largest confirmed impact structures on Earth. With the crater found, dated, and linked directly to the iridium layer, the Alvarez hypothesis was no longer just a theory, it was established fact. The identity of the dinosaur killer was finally known, and its name was Chicxulub. Now scientists could finally reconstruct the day the world changed, a cataclysm so immense it defies human comprehension. An asteroid, composed of rock and metal, streaked through the atmosphere at 20 times the speed of sound, striking the shallow waters of the Yucatan with the force of 10 billion atomic bombs. In a fraction of a second, the asteroid and a vast chunk of the Earth's crust vaporized, excavating a temporary hole in the planet's crust nearly 30 kilometers deep and 100 kilometers wide. A colossal mega-tsunami, hundreds of meters high, radiated outwards,
scouring the coastlines of the Gulf of Mexico and blasting far inland. The impact threw trillions of tons of pulverized rock, superheated gas, and debris into the atmosphere, some of which was ejected on ballistic trajectories, only to rain back down across the globe as fiery meteors, igniting worldwide wildfires. The immediate effects were horrifying, but the long-term consequences were what truly sealed the fate of the dinosaurs and so many other species.
The smoke from the global firestorms, along with the pulverized rock dust and sulfur aerosols created by vaporizing the anhydrite rock formations in the Yucatan, enveloped the planet in a shroud of darkness. This impact winter blocked sunlight for months, if not years, causing global temperatures to plummet and halting photosynthesis across the oceans and on land. The base of the food chain collapsed. Plants died, followed by the herbivores that ate them, and then the carnivores that preyed on the herbivores. In the oceans, the photosynthesizing plankton died off, leading to the extinction of the magnificent marine reptiles and ammonites. It was not the blast itself that killed the majority of life on Earth, but the slow, suffocating darkness that followed. Yet, in the wake of this unparalleled devastation, new opportunities arose from the ashes. With the dominant dinosaurs gone, the ecological niches they had occupied for millions of years were suddenly left wide open. The survivors of the apocalypse were often small, adaptable creatures. In the darkness, mammals, which had existed for tens of millions of years as small, nocturnal, shrew-like animals scurrying in the undergrowth, began to diversify and evolve to fill the empty roles. Without the competition from the giant reptiles, some mammals grew larger, some took to the trees, and some eventually returned to the sea. In a profound sense, the Chicxulub impact, while being the greatest disaster in the history of life, was also the event that directly enabled the rise of the mammals and, ultimately, the evolution of humanity. We are the children of Chicxulub. Today, the crater is a site of intense scientific interest, a natural laboratory for studying planetary-scale catastrophes and the resilience of life. In 2016, an international team of scientists embarked on an offshore drilling expedition, successfully drilling through the crater's peak ring, a ring of mountains formed from rock that rebounded and collapsed in the minutes after the impact. The analysis of these core samples has revealed that the impact created a vast network of hydrothermal vents within the seafloor, systems that could have harbored extremophile life and served as refuges for microbial communities in the aftermath. This discovery suggests that the crater itself may have been a cradle for life's rapid rebound. The story of Chicxulub is far from over. Each new piece of data peels back another layer of this cataclysm, revealing the shocking and intricate details of the day the Earth was shaken to its core and the long shadow it cast over the future of our world. While the Chicxulub impact cleared the stage for the rise of mammals, setting in motion the long evolutionary journey that would eventually lead to our own species, the story of human ancestry was presumed to be a relatively simple tale. For decades, the dominant narrative suggested that after the Neanderthals and Denisovans faded away, Homo sapiens remained as the sole human species on Earth, the unchallenged inheritors of the planet. This view of our unique and solitary existence was comfortingly straightforward, painting a picture of a linear progression towards modern humanity. However, a shocking discovery from a remote Indonesian island would shatter this simplistic model, revealing that our recent past was far stranger and more crowded than we had ever imagined. The discovery would prove that we were not alone, and that a different, smaller kind of human lived alongside us until astonishingly recent times. The story begins in 2003, deep within a limestone cave called Liang Bua on the island of Flores, a place of rugged volcanic mountains and ancient traditions. An international team of Indonesian and Australian archaeologists, led by Mike Morwood and Thomas Sutikna, was meticulously excavating the cave floor, searching for clues about the first human inhabitants of the region. What they uncovered was not the expected fossil of a modern human or even a pygmy, but something that defied all expectations: the almost complete skeleton of an adult female who stood only about 1.1 meters tall. Her skull housed a tiny brain, no larger than a chimpanzee's,
yet her bones suggested she had walked upright. The team was astonished. This was no diseased individual, but a representative of a completely new and previously unknown species of human, a lost branch of the family tree. The skeleton, officially designated LB1 and affectionately nicknamed "15", was just the beginning of a paradigm-shifting revelation. In the following years, excavations at Liangbua uncovered the remains of at least 12 other individuals, all sharing the same diminutive stature and unusually small brain cases. These were not the bones of children, but of fully grown adults, a population of tiny humans who had lived on this isolated island for hundreds of thousands of years. Scientists officially named the species Homo floresiensis, and its existence immediately posed a profound challenge to our understanding of human evolution. How could a creature with such a primitive brain have survived so recently, vanishing only around 50,000 years ago? The implications were staggering, suggesting a complex tapestry of human evolution in Southeast Asia that had left no trace in the fossil record until now. The mystery deepened as researchers began to analyze the wealth of cultural artifacts found alongside the skeletal remains, evidence that painted a picture of surprising intelligence and sophistication. Scattered throughout the same sediment layers were hundreds of finely crafted stone tools, far more advanced than those associated with earlier hominins possessing similar brain sizes. These were not crude rock shards, but carefully manufactured blades, scrapers, and points, requiring foresight, planning, and skill to create. Furthermore, analysis of the hobbit bones, cut marks, and the presence of charred animal bones provided compelling evidence of systematic hunting and butchering, as well as the controlled use of fire. These tiny humans were actively hunting and cooking the local fauna, including juvenile pygmy elephants known as stegodon, a feat that required cooperation and knowledge. This stark contrast between a small, primitive brain and evidence of complex behavior ignited one of the most fierce controversies in modern paleoanthropology. A vocal group of scientists, led by the late Indonesian paleoanthropologist Teuku Jacob, proposed an alternative explanation: that the hobbit was not a new species at all. They argued that LB1 was a modern human who suffered from a severe pathological condition, a theory that quickly gained traction in some circles. Various diseases were suggested as the cause, including microcephaly, a genetic disorder that causes an abnormally small head and brain, Laron syndrome, a form of dwarfism, and even Down syndrome. According to this view, the unique features of Homo floresiensis were nothing more than the symptoms of a sick individual, not a distinct species of human. Proponents of the new species hypothesis, however, mounted a vigorous defense, presenting a growing body of evidence that systematically dismantled the pathology arguments. They pointed out that it was statistically impossible for an entire population of 12 individuals to have all suffered from the exact same rare disease. The most damning evidence came from a detailed analysis of the hobbit's wrist bones, which were published in 2007. The study revealed that the wrist bones of Homo floresiensis were primitive and indistinguishable from those of early hominins like Australopithecus or Homo habilis, and bore no resemblance to the wrist of a modern human, diseased or otherwise. This anatomical feature, frozen deep in our evolutionary past, was a definitive signature of a separate and distinct lineage, not a modern abnormality. With the pathology theory increasingly discredited, the scientific community turned its attention to the next great mystery. Where did Homo floresiensis come from? The leading hypothesis proposed that the hobbits were descendants of a much larger hominin, likely Homo erectus, who had reached the island of Flores more than 1 million years ago. This theory invokes a well-documented biological phenomenon known as insular dwarfism, a process where large animals isolated on islands with limited resources and few predators evolve to become much smaller over many generations. Over hundreds of thousands of years, a population of large-bodied, large-brained Homo erectus could have plausibly evolved into the small-brained, small-statured hobbits found in Liangbua, a living example of evolutionary adaptation in an isolated environment. Just as this theory was gaining acceptance, an even more shocking discovery threatened to upend the narrative once again. In 2016, at a site called Mata Menge, located about 70 kilometers from Liangbua, researchers unearthed hobbit fossils that were an astonishing 700,000 years old. These older remains, a piece of a lower jaw and several teeth, already exhibited the small size characteristic of Homo floresiensis. This finding was profound because it pushed the origin of the hobbits back to a time before Homo erectus was even known to be in the region, suggesting that the dwarfing process occurred much earlier than thought, or that they descended from an even more ancient ancestor like Homo habilis. This discovery implies that multiple hominin species left Africa and journeyed across Asia, leaving behind lost branches of humanity that we are only now beginning to uncover. The final chapter of the Hobbit story is one of disappearance, a vanishing act that occurred in the shadow of our own species' global expansion. The youngest Homo floresiensis fossils and tools found in Liangbua have been dated to around 50,000 years ago, a period that coincides precisely with the arrival of Homo sapiens in the region. This temporal overlap raises a haunting and unanswered question. Did we have a role in their extinction? It is possible that our direct ancestors, with their more advanced technology and larger social groups, outcompeted the hobbits for scarce resources like food and shelter. Alternatively, more direct conflict cannot be ruled out. The hobbits shared their island with giant rats, Komodo dragons, and massive marabou storks. But it may have been the arrival of a new human that ultimately sealed their fate. The discovery of Homo floresiensis has fundamentally and irrevocably rewritten the story of human evolution, replacing a simple linear path with a complex, branching bush. The hobbits of Flores are a powerful testament to the incredible diversity of the human family, demonstrating that different species of humans, with different bodies and different brains, coexisted on this planet into the very recent past. They challenge our anthropocentric view of the world and force us to confront the idea that Homo sapiens is not the pinnacle of creation, but simply the last surviving member of a once thriving family. The lost world of these tiny, intelligent hunters who lived in the shadows of volcanoes is a poignant reminder of our species' deep and complex history, a history that is still being unearthed, one shocking discovery at a time. While the bones of Flores revealed a lost branch of humanity, another discovery, half a world away, would unveil a lost library of the ancient world. In the spring of 1947, a young Bedouin shepherd named Mohammed Ed-Dib was searching for a stray goat among the rugged cliffs overlooking the Dead Sea. He tossed a stone into a cave and was startled by the sound of shattering pottery. Investigating further, he discovered several tall, cylindrical jars, their contents wrapped in linen and leather. Inside these ancient vessels were a collection of brittle, darkened scrolls, the first glimpse into a treasure that had lain hidden for 2,000 years. This accidental find was just the beginning of an archaeological saga that would unfold over the next decade. The shepherd and his companions returned to the cave, unearthing more scrolls and fragments, which they eventually took to a market in Bethlehem. An antiquities dealer recognized their potential age and significance, alerting the Syrian Orthodox Metropolitan, Mar Samuel, in Jerusalem. News of the discovery quickly spread, attracting the attention of scholars and sparking a frantic search for more caves in the surrounding desert. The race was on to uncover the full extent of this incredible library before it was lost to looters or time. What scholars found would fundamentally alter our understanding of Judaism and the origins of Christianity. In total, excavations and explorations between 1952 and 1956 yielded fragments of approximately 900 distinct manuscripts from 11 nearby caves. The vast majority were written on carefully prepared animal skin, though some were on papyrus, and one unique scroll was made entirely of copper. The texts were composed primarily in Hebrew, with a significant portion in Aramaic and a smaller number in Greek, representing a cross-section of the literary and religious culture of the period. The content of these manuscripts was breathtaking in its scope and importance. Among the documents were the oldest known copies of books from the Hebrew Bible, dating back more than 1,000 years older than any previously known versions. A nearly complete scroll of the Book of Isaiah found in Cave 1 was a landmark discovery, allowing scholars to see with stunning clarity how the biblical text had been transmitted over centuries. Alongside these biblical texts were a collection of non-canonical works, or apocrypha, such as the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees, which shed new light on Jewish religious imagination. The collection also included previously unknown texts describing the specific rules, beliefs, and prophecies of a distinct Jewish sect. The identity of the people who wrote, copied, and hid these scrolls became the central question for researchers. The most widely accepted theory points to a reclusive Jewish sect known as the Essenes, a group described in detail by the contemporary historians Josephus and Philo. According to these ancient accounts, the Essenes were an ascetic messianic community who lived in communal settlements, practiced ritual immersion daily, and held all their property in common. A scroll found among the collection, known as the Community Rule, outlines strikingly similar regulations for a pious community, leading most scholars to identify the inhabitants of the nearby settlement of Qumran with the Essenes. This connection between the scrolls and the physical site of Qumran provided powerful evidence for the Essene hypothesis. Archaeologists excavated the ruins of the settlement near the cave-riddled cliffs, uncovering a complex of buildings that seemed perfectly suited to the community described in the texts. They discovered large rooms that may have served as scriptoriums for writing, complete with inkwells and a sophisticated system of cisterns and aqueducts for ritual bathing.
The settlement appeared to be a monastery-like center for study, work, and worship, supporting the idea that the sect produced the scrolls themselves. The Qumran ruins, the caves, and the library together formed a coherent archaeological and historical picture. The precise timing of when the scrolls were hidden is also crucial to understanding their story. Archaeological evidence, including Roman-era coins and arrowheads found in the ruins, points to a dramatic event around the year 70 of the Common Era. This was the period of the Great Jewish Revolt, a bloody uprising against Roman rule that culminated in the destruction of Jerusalem and its Second Temple. It is almost certain that the inhabitants of Qumran, seeing the approach of the Roman legions, who were systematically crushing the rebellion, took desperate measures. They carefully packed their most precious library into the jars and concealed them in the remote caves for safekeeping, intending to return for them after the danger had passed, a day that never came. Despite the strength of the Essene theory, it has not been without its challengers, creating a vigorous and ongoing academic debate. A prominent alternative hypothesis, championed by scholars like Norman Golb of the University of Chicago, argues that the scrolls did not originate at Qumran at all. This theory suggests that the manuscripts came from various libraries in Jerusalem, representing a broad spectrum of Jewish thought, not just one sect. As the Roman army besieged Jerusalem, the theory posits that refugees fled the city with their valuable books and hid them in the desert for protection. In this view, the settlement at Qumran was not a sectarian monastery, but possibly a military fortress or even a wealthy country villa. Perhaps the most enigmatic and shocking of all the discoveries was the one found in Cave 3, an artifact known as the Copper Scroll. Unlike all the other manuscripts, which were made of organic materials, this one was created from two thin sheets of copper that were hammered together to form a single plate. When it was finally unrolled in a laboratory in Manchester, England, its contents astonished everyone. The scroll contained no religious laws, biblical passages, or theological commentary. Instead, it was an inventory, a detailed list of 64 locations where immense quantities of gold and silver were purportedly hidden. The mystery of the Copper Scroll has fueled speculation for decades, blurring the line between history and treasure hunting. The text describes hiding places with cryptic directions, such as in the irrigation cistern of the western facade, in a recess of its bottom, hidden at a distance of 3 cubits, or under the large stone on the eastern side, in the 3rd row. The total value of the treasure mentioned is staggering, equivalent to many tons of gold and silver. Despite numerous expeditions using the scroll as a guide, not a single one of the locations has yielded the vast riches described, leading to several competing theories about its true meaning. Some experts believe the Copper Scroll describes a real treasure, perhaps the wealth of the Jerusalem Temple or the communal savings of the Essene sect, that was successfully hidden from the Romans. If so, it remains one of the greatest unfound treasures in the world. Others argue the inventory is symbolic, a coded document referring to hidden knowledge or sacred objects rather than literal gold. Another possibility is that it was a fictitious list, perhaps a work of folklore or an accounting of historical wealth that was already gone by the time the scroll was made. The Copper Scroll remains a tantalizing puzzle, a shocking anomaly among the sacred texts. The story of the Dead Sea Scrolls did not end with their ancient discovery. It became embroiled in a modern controversy over access and publication. The initial team of scholars appointed to study and publish the scrolls was small and exclusive, leading to what many in the academic world saw as a monopoly. For decades, the pace of publication was agonizingly slow, with many fragments remaining unseen by anyone outside this small circle. Frustration mounted as a generation of researchers was denied access to the most important archaeological find of the 20th century, leading to accusations of secrecy and scholarly hoarding that tarnished the project. This deadlock was dramatically broken in the early 1990s by a revolutionary act of information sharing. The Huntington Library in San Marino, California, which possessed a complete set of photographic negatives of the scrolls, announced it would make them available to all scholars. This bold move effectively ended the monopoly and forced the official editorial team to accelerate its work. Suddenly, the long-hidden texts were accessible to researchers around the globe, unleashing a new wave of intense analysis and interpretation. The open access policy transformed the field, leading to rapid advancements in decipherment and understanding. For the study of Judaism, the scrolls have provided an unparalleled window into a formative and previously obscure historical period. The Second Temple period, from roughly 516 BCE to 70 CE, was a time of immense religious, political, and intellectual ferment, but documentary evidence was scarce. The Dead Sea Scrolls revealed that Judaism at this time was not a monolith, but a vibrant tapestry of diverse sects and beliefs, including Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, and others. They show the development of ideas about messianism, angels, the end times, and the interpretation of Torah that would directly shape the future of both Judaism and Christianity. These texts are a time capsule of the world that gave rise to Rabbinic Judaism. For scholars of early Christianity, the scrolls are equally, if not more, profound in their implications. Jesus, John the Baptist, and the early apostles lived and taught in the very same region of Judea during the very same decades when the Qumran community was active. While the scrolls contain no mention of Jesus or Christianity, they provide the essential religious and cultural context from which the new faith emerged. Many concepts and practices once thought to be uniquely Christian, such as baptism, a new covenant, communal meals, and the expectation of a suffering Messiah, are now shown to have been part of the broader Jewish discourse of the time. The scrolls help us understand the Jewish world in which Jesus of Nazareth lived and taught. Ultimately, the Dead Sea Scrolls stand as a testament to the enduring power of the written word and the fragility of history. These fragile manuscripts, hidden in darkness by people fleeing for their lives, survived against all odds to speak to us across 2 millennia. They have confirmed some ancient texts, challenged others, and introduced us to entirely new works of religious genius. The discovery forced a re-evaluation of the development of the Bible and illuminated the complex roots of 2 of the world's major religions. A shocking revelation from the desert that continues to resonate today. But while some secrets were preserved by the arid silence of the desert, others were frozen in time by the fires of the earth, awaiting discovery under the shadow of a silent mountain. On the idyllic coast of Campania, Italy, the Bay of Naples was a paradise for the Roman Empire's wealthiest citizens. Here, nestled on a fertile plain, stood the city of Pompeii, a bustling commercial hub and luxurious resort town of around 20,000 inhabitants. Its streets echoed with the sounds of merchants, politicians, and slaves, a vibrant tapestry of Roman life in its golden age. Rising majestically behind the city was Mount Vesuvius,
a lush, green-covered mountain that no one recognized as a ticking time bomb, for it had not erupted in living memory. The mountain was a source of fertile soil and scenic beauty, not fear, its true nature a cataclysmic secret waiting to be unleashed. According to the detailed account of Pliny the Younger, a Roman administrator who witnessed the disaster from across the bay, the end began on a seemingly ordinary summer day, likely August 24th in the year 79 CE. The morning started with minor tremors, a common enough occurrence in the seismically active region that it caused little concern. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the mountain exploded with a force that would dwarf modern nuclear weapons, sending a column of stone, ash, and pumice miles into the sky. This mushroom cloud, described by Pliny as resembling a Mediterranean pine tree, blotted out the sun, plunging the region into an artificial, terrifying nightfall. Panic erupted as a relentless rain of pumice and ash began to fall, pelting the city and accumulating at a rate of several inches per hour. The initial phase of the eruption, which lasted for nearly 18 hours, was primarily destructive for Pompeii, as the weight of the pumice caused roofs to collapse, trapping those who had not fled. For the neighboring city of Herculaneum, situated to the west, the early phase seemed less severe, and many citizens likely evacuated towards the sea. However, the true horror came with the collapse of the massive eruption column, which sent a series of superheated pyroclastic surges careening down the volcano's flanks at incredible speeds. These ground-hugging avalanches of toxic gas, ash, and rock reached temperatures of over 500 degrees Fahrenheit and were instantly fatal to anyone caught in their path. While Pompeii was buried under approximately 13 to 20 feet of pumice and ash, Herculaneum was entombed under a solid 75-foot deep layer of volcanic material that hardened into rock. For 17 centuries, the lost cities lay forgotten, their very existence erased from maps and memory, until the 18th century when a chance discovery brought them back into the light. In 1708, a farmer digging a well on his land struck a section of marble floor, inadvertently uncovering part of the lavish villa of the papyri in Herculaneum. This sparked the interest of Charles of Bourbon, the King of Naples, who funded systematic excavations beginning in 1738. Early efforts, led by the Spanish military engineer Roque Joaquín de Alcubierre, were less about scientific archaeology and more about treasure hunting. Workers tunneled through the hard volcanic rock, seeking valuable statues, mosaics, and artifacts for the king's palace, often destroying priceless context in the process. It was this plundering approach that eventually led to the first discovery of Pompeii in 1748, a city whose softer ash burial made for easier, if initially crude, excavation. It was not until the 19th century, with the appointment of Giuseppe Fiorelli as director of the excavations in 1863, that the true scientific and emotional potential of Pompeii began to be realized. Fiorelli introduced a revolutionary methodology, abandoning the tunneling of his predecessors and implementing a systematic, grid-based excavation that recorded the precise location of every object. His most shocking and enduring innovation came from his observation of numerous cavities, or hollows, in the hardened ash layers scattered throughout the city. He astutely deduced that these voids were the spaces once occupied by the bodies of the victims and their belongings, which had decayed over the centuries, leaving a human-shaped shell in the volcanic matrix. To capture this haunting information, Fiorelli developed a technique of pouring liquid plaster into these cavities, allowing it to harden before carefully chipping away the surrounding ash to reveal a perfect cast of the original form. The results were nothing short of visceral, transforming abstract historical tragedy into tangible, heart-wrenching human drama. The plaster casts revealed the final moments of Pompeii's citizens in intimate, horrifying detail. A man clutching his cloth to his mouth to filter the poisonous air. A pair of lovers embracing in their final seconds. A chained guard dog writhing in its death throes after being left to die by its owners. These were not stylized statues. They were direct, negative imprints of real people, their facial expressions, their clothing, the very fabric of their lives perfectly preserved in plaster. According to leading volcanologists and archaeologists, these casts provide an unparalleled window into the immediate human experience of a volcanic disaster.
They are the ghostly echoes of a city's population, frozen in a single, terrifying moment, making the inhabitants of the ancient world shockingly, undeniably real. Beyond the profound human tragedy, the ash that entombed Pompeii acted as a hermetic seal, preserving the very fabric of daily Roman life with an astonishing completeness that has no parallel anywhere else in the world. Walking the streets of the excavated city today is like stepping back in time, with paved roads, high curbs, and stepping stones allowing pedestrians to cross the street without stepping into the filth and water that flowed in the center. Over 200 thermopolia, or fast food counters, have been identified, their counters dotted with holes where hot food cauldrons once sat, catering to residents who lacked kitchens in their small apartments. In one bakery, archaeologists found carbonized loaves of bread, scored into 8 sections, still in an oven, ready for distribution when the city was struck. A shocking snapshot of commerce interrupted by catastrophe. The preservation extends to the very walls of the city, which are covered with an incredible wealth of graffiti, providing a direct voice from the common people of the Roman world. These are not the polished prose of historians, but the raw, unfiltered thoughts of citizens. Declarations of love, boasts of sexual conquests, and, most fascinatingly, political campaign slogans. Messages like Quote 20 or Quote 21 reveal a city with a vibrant and competitive political life. The famous Lupanar, Pompeii's largest brothel, is another shocking discovery. Its small stone rooms decorated with explicit frescoes depicting various sexual services, believed to be a menu for customers. This level of detail about social customs, commerce, politics, and even sexuality is almost entirely absent from other Roman sites, making Pompeii an invaluable repository of social history. While Pompeii was buried under lightweight pumice, the fate of Herculaneum was different, and its preservation yielded a different, equally shocking set of treasures for scientists to study. The pyroclastic flows that engulfed Herculaneum were denser and hotter, carbonizing organic materials on contact and encasing the city in a thick, airtight tuff that preserved wood, fabrics, and food. Archaeologists have found wooden furniture, doors, bed frames, and even fruit and bread left on tables. The most stunning discovery, however, was made in the Villa of the Papyri, where a library containing over 1,800 scrolls was found. These scrolls were not paper, but papyrus, and though they were carbonized and fragile, modern technology has allowed them to be unrolled and read, revealing lost philosophical texts, primarily Epicurean works, offering a direct link to the intellectual life of the Roman elite, and a shocking parallel to the textual preservation of the Dead Sea Scrolls in a very different context. In the 21st century, the study of Pompeii has entered a new phase, driven by technological advancements that are revealing secrets hidden for 2 millennia. Sophisticated CT scanning of the plaster casts allows researchers to peer inside without damaging them, examining the skeletons of the victims in unprecedented detail. These scans can determine the victim's age, sex, state of health, and even their diet from their teeth, painting a more complete picture of the Pompeian population. Multispectral analysis is being used to read faint or faded frescoes and inscriptions, while DNA analysis is being conducted on the skeletal remains to understand the genetic origins and family relationships of the city's inhabitants. Modern research shows that the population was more diverse and cosmopolitan than previously believed, with individuals traced to the Eastern Mediterranean and North Africa, challenging the traditional view of a purely Italic city. The most shocking news from Pompeii in recent years has come from the excavation of a previously untouched section of the city, known as Regio Fi, which was opened to investigation for the first time in the 21st century. This area, still covered by the debris from the eruption, has already yielded a breathtaking series of discoveries. In 1919, archaeologists uncovered a stunningly well-preserved fresco depicting the mythical scene of Leda and the Swan, a painting with explicit erotic overtones that had been lost to time. Elsewhere in Regio 5, the remains of 5 victims were found, believed to be 2 women and 3 children, huddled in a room.
Nearby, another man was found crushed by an enormous stone block, likely hurled by the force of the volcanic cloud, a dramatic testament to the violent power of the eruption. These new finds confirm that Pompeii is not a static museum, but an active archaeological site that continues to shock and surprise the world with every new layer of ash that is removed. Despite centuries of study, fundamental questions remain about the final moments of Pompeii's victims, fueling ongoing scientific debate and forensic investigation. The long-held theory was that most people died from suffocation, inhaling the thick ash and poisonous gases. However, more recent research, detailed in studies published by volcanologists and anthropologists, points to a more instantaneous and horrific demise. Analysis of the skeletal remains and the volcanic matrix that encased them has revealed evidence of exposure to extreme temperatures as high as 932 degrees Fahrenheit. This would have caused instant death, vaporizing soft tissues and causing skulls to explode, a theory supported by the cracked skulls found on some casts. The debate continues, but the evidence increasingly suggests that for many, death came not from slow suffocation, but from a swift, incinerating blast of heat. The story of Pompeii is not merely a historical account. It is a stark warning, for Mount Vesuvius is not an extinct volcano, but an active one, and it is one of the most dangerous in the world. Scientists estimate that it is capable of a Plinian eruption similar to the one in 79 CE, and the geological record shows it has erupted on multiple occasions since then. Today, the fertile slopes that once attracted Roman villas are now home to approximately 3 million people, with 600,000 living in the highest risk, quote, 22, that would be utterly devastated by a major eruption. Italian authorities have developed a massive evacuation plan, but its effectiveness remains a subject of intense concern, as the logistics of moving hundreds of thousands of people under duress are daunting. The mountain that destroyed Pompeii looms over modern Naples, a beautiful but ominous reminder that nature's power is timeless, and that the shock of the past is a very real threat for the future. Ultimately, Pompeii endures not just as an archaeological wonder, but as a profound and shocking human story, a city captured in the act of living. Its preservation by the very force that annihilated it is one of the greatest ironies and treasures of the historical world. It offers a bridge across time, allowing us to connect with the lives, loves, and deaths of individuals who walked the earth 2,000 years ago. The discovery of Pompeii revealed that the past was not a black and white world of marble and philosophers, but a vibrant, colorful, and sometimes crude reality. As Vesuvius continues to watch over the bay, the silent streets and plaster forms of the lost city serve as a powerful, poignant testament to the fragility of life and the sheer, unpredictable force of a single, world-changing day. As the tragic story of Pompeii reminds us of life's fragility on Earth, another, broader, and more hopeful discovery has been unfolding across the cosmos, one that redefines our place in the universe. For millennia, humanity looked to the stars and wondered if the pinpricks of light were suns like our own, circled by worlds like ours. This question shifted from the realm of philosophy and mythology to hard science in the 20th century. But for decades, the search for planets outside our solar system yielded only frustration and false alarms. The gravitational pull of a planet on a distant star was simply too small, the star's light too bright for our technology to detect. Then, in 1995, everything changed in a way that was as shocking as the unearthing of any lost city or ancient treasure. The breakthrough came not from a massive space telescope, but from a ground-based observatory in the south of France, the Haute-Provence Observatory. Two Swiss astronomers, Michel Mayer and Didier Queloz, were studying the star 51 Pegasi, a sun-like star 47 light-years away in the constellation Pegasus. They were using the radial velocity method, a technique that looks for a star's, quote, 23, caused by an orbiting planet's gravitational tug, which subtly shifts the star's light towards red and blue. They detected a wobble so fast and so pronounced that it indicated a planet at least half the mass of Jupiter. But what was truly shocking was its orbit. This planet, designated 51 Pegasi b, completed a year in just 4 Earth days. This meant it was 20 times closer to its star than Earth is to the Sun, a scorching world astronomers had never conceived of, a quote, 24 that shattered all models of solar system formation and earned Mayer and Quetelet the 1920 Nobel Prize in Physics. The discovery of 51 Pegasi b opened the floodgates, proving that planets were not only common, but that they could exist in bizarre and unexpected configurations. Astronomers realized they had been looking for planetary systems like our own, but the universe was far more creative and chaotic. Following this paradigm-shifting find, a new era of exoplanet hunting began, driven by two primary methods that would reveal thousands of new worlds. The radial velocity method, which had found the first, continued to be effective for finding massive planets close to their stars. But the true revolution came from space with the launch of NASA's Kepler Space Telescope in 2009, an instrument designed to use a different technique entirely, one that could find smaller, Earth-sized planets. Kepler's method was the transit method, an elegant concept of extraordinary precision. It stared at a fixed patch of sky containing about 150,000 stars and looked for the tiny, periodic dips in a star's brightness that occur when a planet passes in front of it, from our viewpoint. Detecting a transit is like trying to perceive the dimming of a searchlight from a mile away when a single gnat flies in front of it. Yet Kepler's instruments were sensitive enough to do just that. Over its 9-year mission, Kepler discovered more than 2,600 confirmed exoplanets, with thousands more candidates still awaiting verification, revealing that the night sky is not just dotted with stars, but is teeming with unseen worlds. The sheer numbers were shocking, suggesting that on average there is at least one planet for every star in our galaxy, meaning there are more planets than stars in the Milky Way alone. This explosion of data has created a celestial menagerie of planetary types that challenge our Earth-centric understanding of what a quote 25 quote can be. We have found quote 26 rocky planets larger than our own but smaller than Neptune, like Kepler 10b, a scorched, lava-covered world that is so hot it could melt iron on its surface. Then there are, quote, 27 planets with thick gaseous atmospheres but smaller than our Neptune, such as GJ1214b, which may be covered in a global ocean thousands of miles deep under a high-pressure steam atmosphere. Perhaps the most extreme are the, quote, 28, quote, like Korat 7b, where one side perpetually faces its star, creating a hemisphere of molten rock while the other side freezes in permanent darkness, with rock that vaporizes on the day side, condenses, and rains down as rock on the night side. Beyond these infernal landscapes, the holy grail of exoplanet research has always been the search for a world like Earth, a place where life as we know it might exist. This quest focuses on the, quote, 29, quote, or quote 30, quote, the orbital region around a star where temperatures are just right. Not too hot and not too cold for liquid water to exist on a planet's surface. The Kepler mission was instrumental in this search, and in 2014, astronomers announced the discovery of Kepler 186f, the first Earth-sized planet found within the habitable zone of its star. Located about 500 light-years away in the constellation Cygnus, this planet is only 10% larger than Earth and orbits a red dwarf star, receiving about 1/3 of the energy from its star that Earth gets from the Sun, placing it squarely in the region where liquid water could pool. The single most shocking exoplanetary system discovered to date is TRAPPIST-1, revealed to the world in 2017, a discovery that feels like science fiction made real. This system, just 39 light-years away, features an ultra-cool red dwarf star orbited by not one, but 7 Earth-sized planets, all of which are roughly the size of Earth or smaller. What is truly astonishing is that 3 of these 7 planets, TRAPPIST-1, E, F, and G, are located firmly within the star's habitable zone, and all 7 could potentially have liquid water on their surfaces under the right atmospheric conditions. The discovery of TRAPPIST-1 proved that compact, multi-planet systems could exist around the most common type of star in our galaxy, dramatically increasing the potential number of habitable environments throughout the cosmos and providing an unprecedented target for future study. The TRAPPIST-1 system, named after the TRAPPIST, Transiting Planets and Planetesimals Small Telescope in Chile that first detected it, has become the prime laboratory for understanding potential alien environments. These planets are so close to their star and to each other that they are likely tidally locked, meaning one side always faces the star and one side always faces away, creating permanent day-side and night-side hemispheres. Their orbits are incredibly close and swift, with a "31" on the innermost planet lasting just 1.5 Earth days, and even the outermost planet completing its orbit in only 19 days. From the surface of one of these planets, the other planets would appear in the sky as large as our moon, sometimes even larger, offering a truly alien and spectacular celestial view that has captivated both scientists and the public. With thousands of exoplanets confirmed, the question has inevitably shifted from "32" to "33." The next phase of discovery is focused on the search for biosignatures, chemical signs of life in a planet's atmosphere. When light from a star passes through an exoplanet's atmosphere during a transit, it carries with it the spectral fingerprints of the gases present. Scientists are looking for combinations of gases that could not be produced by geology alone, such as the simultaneous presence of oxygen and methane, which react with each other and would need a constant biological source to replenish them. This is the primary task of the James Webb Space Telescope, the successor to Hubble, launched in 2021, which has the sensitivity and power to analyze the atmospheres of nearby Earth-sized exoplanets like those in the TRAPPIST-1 system. The James Webb Space Telescope represents our greatest hope in the immediate future for detecting signs of life beyond Earth. Its enormous sunshield and advanced mirrors allow it to observe in the infrared spectrum, where the heat signatures of exoplanets and the molecular fingerprints of atmospheric gases are most distinct. Early observations have already been stunning, detecting water vapor, carbon dioxide, and other molecules in the atmospheres of gas giant exoplanets, proving the technology works. The anticipation for its first detailed look at the atmospheres of the TRAPPIST-1 planets is immense, as a detection of biosignatures would undeniably be the most shocking discovery in human history, fundamentally altering our understanding of life and our place in the universe. The data from Webb may not provide a definitive "34," "35," but will refine our search and identify the most promising candidates for even more powerful future telescopes. Beyond the technological quest, the discovery of exoplanets has profound philosophical implications, forcing a re-evaluation of our own significance, a concept known as the Copernican principle. Nicholas Copernicus displaced Earth from the center of the universe, and subsequent discoveries showed our Sun is an ordinary star in an ordinary galaxy. The realization that planets are a common, perhaps universal byproduct of star formation completes this humbling journey. According to leading planetary scientists, it now seems statistically improbable that Earth is the only planet to have ever hosted life. A view that transforms the question of life elsewhere from "36" to "37" and "38." This shift has energized the field of astrobiology, which now operates on the assumption that life could be a cosmic phenomenon rather than a terrestrial fluke. This new perspective leads directly to the famous Fermi paradox, encapsulated by physicist Enrico Fermi's simple question: where is everybody? If the universe is so vast and filled with potentially habitable planets, why have we not found any evidence of extraterrestrial civilizations? There are many proposed solutions to this paradox, each more shocking than the last. Perhaps life is incredibly rare, a great filter that few or no other planets have passed. Perhaps intelligent life inevitably destroys itself through war or environmental collapse before it can achieve interstellar communication. Or perhaps the universe is full of life, but it is so alien, existing on timescales or in dimensions we cannot perceive, that we are simply incapable of recognizing it. These are no longer just questions for science fiction. They are now serious topics for scientific debate. The search for exoplanets is also a search for our own origins, as understanding the diversity of planetary systems helps us understand how our own solar system formed and evolved to become a place that could support life.
By studying hot Jupiters, we learn about planetary migration and how giant planets can move inward from their formation zones, a process that may have happened in our own solar system before stabilizing. By looking at super-Earths, we gain insight into why our solar system lacks a planet in that size category, a feature that may have been crucial for the stability and habitability of Earth. According to researchers at institutions like the California Institute of Technology, every new planet discovered is a data point that helps refine and sometimes completely overturn our models of planetary formation, showing that the story of our own world is just one possible outcome in a cosmic lottery with countless variations. The technology for finding exoplanets is advancing at an exponential rate, promising even more shocking discoveries in the decades to come. On the ground, a new generation of extremely large telescopes, like the 39-meter European Extremely Large Telescope in Chile, will have mirrors so large they can directly image some nearby exoplanets, separating their faint light from their brilliant star. Direct imaging would allow astronomers to analyze the entire surface and atmosphere of a planet as it rotates, searching for clouds, continents, oceans, and even seasonal changes. A truly staggering leap in our observational capabilities. In space, future missions like the proposed LUVOIR, Large UV Optical IR Surveyor, or HABEX, Habitable Exoplanet Observatory telescopes, would be even more powerful than the James Webb Space Telescope, designed specifically to find and characterize dozens of Earth-like planets around Sun-like stars. The ultimate goal remains the search for a pale blue dot, an image of a small rocky world with clear signs of liquid water and a biosphere. Finding such a world, and then proving it harbors life, would be the culmination of a journey that began when the first humans looked up at the night sky in wonder. The discoveries of the last few decades, from the first hot Jupiter to the 7 Earth-sized worlds of TRAPPIST-1, have proven that the universe is far more dynamic and diverse than we ever imagined. They have shown us that the ingredients for planets are everywhere, and by extension, so too might be the ingredients for life. The shocking truth is that we are living in the golden age of cosmic discovery, a time when a single generation of humanity is transitioning from wondering about other worlds to actively finding and studying them, a revolution that is only just beginning. While the search for life among the stars captures our imagination with its promise of alien worlds, the most shocking discovery about life itself was not found light years away, but within the nucleus of every living cell on Earth. For millennia, humanity pondered the secret of heredity, the invisible force that sculpts every living form, from the petals of a rose to the complexity of the human brain. This secret, the very blueprint of existence, remained locked away, a microscopic mystery of staggering complexity. The quest to unravel it would become a scientific detective story, filled with brilliance, rivalry, and a revelation so profound it would forever alter our understanding of who we are. The discovery of DNA's double helix structure stands as arguably the single most important scientific breakthrough of the 20th century. In the early 1900s, the scientific consensus pointed towards proteins, not DNA, as the likely carrier of genetic information. Proteins are incredibly complex molecules, built from 20 different amino acids, offering a seemingly limitless capacity for storing information in their intricate folds. In contrast, deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, was considered a rather boring molecule, a simple repetitive polymer of just 4 nucleotides. Many leading biologists, including the brilliant chemist Linus Pauling, initially dismissed DNA, believing its structural simplicity was insufficient to encode the vast library of life. This prevailing view meant that the few scientists who did suspect DNA's importance were working against the grain of mainstream thought, setting the stage for a dramatic paradigm shift. The central drama of this discovery unfolded in the early 1950s in England, primarily between 2 institutions, the University of Cambridge and King's College London.
At Cambridge, a young American biologist named James Watson teamed up with a British physicist named Francis Crick, an unlikely pair who shared a passionate, if somewhat arrogant, belief that they could solve the structure of DNA. They possessed little experimental data themselves, but were masters of theoretical modeling, building physical structures from metal plates and rods to test their ideas. Meanwhile, at King's College, a team led by Maurice Wilkins was pursuing a more direct, experimental approach, using a powerful new technique called X-ray crystallography, a method that could reveal the atomic architecture of molecules. The key figure at King's College was Rosalind Franklin, a gifted and meticulous X-ray crystallographer hired to lead the DNA project. Franklin was tasked with obtaining the clearest possible X-ray diffraction images of DNA fibers, a painstakingly difficult job that required immense skill and patience. She worked in a climate of institutional sexism, often excluded from the informal men-only meetings where scientific data was freely discussed. Despite these challenges, Franklin's work was exceptional, producing images of a clarity and precision that no one else had managed to achieve. Her data was crucial, revealing that DNA existed in two forms, a dry A form and a wet B form, a distinction that would prove vital to understanding its biological function. The culmination of Franklin's efforts came in May 1952, with the production of an image that would become legendary in the history of science. Photo 51. This single photograph, captured after over 100 hours of exposure, was the clearest X-ray diffraction pattern of the "44" form of DNA ever produced. Its most striking feature was a distinct 45 shape, formed by dark spots at the top and bottom, a pattern that, to a trained eye, screamed 46. The image also allowed for precise calculations of the molecule's dimensions, revealing that the helix had a consistent diameter and that the nucleotides were spaced at regular intervals of 3.4 angstroms along its length. This was the critical piece of evidence, the Rosetta Stone for the structure of life. Unbeknownst to Franklin, her photograph was shown to James Watson by Maurice Wilkins in early 1953, a moment that Watson later described as jaw-dropping. Seeing the X in photo 51 instantly confirmed to Watson that the structure was a helix, ending the debate on that point and providing the precise dimensions he and Crick needed to finalize their model. Armed with this crucial data, combined with their own theoretical insights and knowledge of chemical bonding rules, Watson and Crick raced to build the correct structure. They knew that the four nucleotide bases, adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, had to be on the inside of the helix, with the sugar-phosphate backbone on the outside, a configuration that explained Franklin's measurements. The final brilliant insight came when they figured out how the bases paired with each other, adhering to the rules of chemistry discovered by Erwin Chargaff. Adenine, A, always paired with thymine, T, and guanine, G, always paired with cytosine, C, a system known as complementary base pairing. This elegant solution explained how the double helix could form, and more importantly, how it could replicate, as each strand could serve as a template for a new complementary partner. In February 1953, Watson and Crick walked into a local Cambridge pub and announced, according to Watson, quote, 48, quote, they had built a model of a molecule of breathtaking beauty, simplicity, and functional genius. The discovery was published in the journal Nature on April 25, 1953, in a now famous paper authored by Watson and Crick. The paper was remarkably modest, just over a single page long, and contained one of the most famous understatements in scientific literature as its final sentence. In the same issue, two separate papers from the King's College team, one by Wilkins and two by Franklin, were published, providing the supporting X-ray evidence. The world of biology was forever changed in that single issue, as the structure itself immediately explained the mechanism of heredity. The impact of the discovery was rapid and profound, giving birth to the entirely new field of molecular biology. Scientists now had a concrete model to work with, allowing them to decipher how the sequence of bases along the DNA strand formed the genetic code, the language that instructs cells on how to build proteins.
Understanding this code unlocked the secrets of how mutations occur and how they can lead to diseases like cancer and cystic fibrosis. In 1962, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was awarded jointly to James Watson, Francis Crick, and Maurice Wilkins for their discoveries concerning the molecular structure of nucleic acids. Tragically, Rosalind Franklin had died of ovarian cancer in 1958, and because Nobel Prizes are not awarded posthumously, her monumental contribution was not officially recognized, a point that remains a subject of historical controversy and debate. The discovery of the double helix provided the key to understanding the central dogma of molecular biology. DNA makes RNA, and RNA makes protein. This process, known as gene expression, is the fundamental flow of genetic information within a cell. It begins with transcription, where a specific segment of DNA is copied into a messenger RNA, mRNA, molecule. This mRNA molecule then travels out of the cell's nucleus to a ribosome, the cell's protein factory, where its code is read during a process called translation. The ribosome assembles amino acids in the correct order, dictated by the mRNA sequence, to fold into a functional protein, which then carries out its specific task within the organism. This newfound understanding of the genetic code paved the way for the biotechnology revolution that began in the 1970s. Scientists developed techniques for recombinant DNA, allowing them to cut and paste DNA from one organism into another. The first major success came in 1982 with the production of human insulin by genetically engineered bacteria, providing a pure and plentiful source of this life-saving drug for diabetics. This breakthrough demonstrated the immense practical potential of molecular biology, leading to the creation of genetically modified crops, the development of new pharmaceuticals, and the use of DNA fingerprinting in forensic science. The ability to manipulate the very code of life had transformed from a theoretical possibility into a powerful, world-changing technology. Perhaps the most ambitious project born from this discovery was the Human Genome Project, HGP, an international 13-year effort to determine the complete sequence of the 3 billion base pairs that make up human DNA. Launched in 1990, the project was a monumental undertaking, requiring the development of new, high-speed automated sequencing technologies and massive computational power to assemble the vast amount of data. The goal was to create a map of all human genes, providing a foundational reference for researchers studying everything from human evolution and migration to the genetic basis of complex diseases. The HGP was hailed as the moonshot of biology, a project that would define an era of scientific exploration. The final draft of the human genome was announced in a joint press conference by Francis Collins and Craig Venter in 2000, and the completed sequence was published in 2003. The results were surprising in many ways. For instance, the number of protein-coding genes was found to be far lower than expected, around 20 to 25,000, not much more than a tiny roundworm. The vast majority of the genome, roughly 98%, does not code for proteins and was initially dismissed as junk DNA. This finding deepened the mystery of human complexity, suggesting that the key to our biology lies not just in the genes themselves, but in the intricate regulatory systems that control when, where, and how those genes are used. The post-genomic era has focused on unraveling the secrets hidden within this non-coding dark matter of the genome. Scientists have discovered that much of this junk DNA is transcribed into functional RNA molecules that do not code for proteins but play critical regulatory roles. These non-coding RNAs can silence genes, activate them, or fine-tune their expression, acting as a sophisticated operating system that manages the genome. This layer of complexity, known as epigenetics, adds another dimension to our understanding of heredity, showing that environmental factors like diet and stress can leave chemical tags on DNA that influence gene activity without changing the underlying sequence. The elegant simplicity of the double helix has given way to a picture of breathtaking and dynamic complexity.
Perhaps the most shocking and consequential development to emerge from our understanding of DNA is the rise of precise genome editing technologies, most notably CRISPR-Cas9. Discovered as a part of a bacterial immune system, CRISPR-Cas9 was adapted by scientists into a powerful and relatively simple tool for editing genes. It works like a pair of molecular scissors, guided by a small piece of RNA, allowing researchers to find a specific sequence of DNA and cut it out, disable it, or even replace it with a new sequence. The potential applications are staggering, offering the possibility of correcting the genetic mutations that cause devastating inherited diseases like sickle cell anemia, Huntington's disease, and cystic fibrosis, potentially curing them at their source. However, the power of CRISPR has also ignited a profound ethical debate, particularly surrounding its potential use in human embryos, a process known as germline editing. In 2018, Chinese scientist He Jiankui announced the birth of the world's first gene-edited babies, twin girls whose DNA he had modified to make them resistant to HIV. His announcement was met with widespread condemnation from the global scientific community, which argued that the experiment was medically unnecessary, irresponsible, and crossed a critical ethical line. The fear is that such technology could be used for non-therapeutic enhancement, creating a market for so-called designer babies, and potentially creating a genetic divide in society. The shocking discovery of the double helix has now placed humanity in the unprecedented position of being able to consciously direct its own evolution. The story of DNA also loops back to our search for life beyond Earth, providing a new framework for what we might be looking for. The building blocks of DNA, the nucleobases, have been found in meteorites that have fallen to Earth, demonstrating that these organic molecules can form spontaneously in space. Furthermore, radio telescopes have detected complex molecules, including simple sugars and the components of nucleobases, in interstellar gas clouds. This suggests that the chemical ingredients for life are not unique to our planet, but are common throughout the cosmos, meaning that if life arises elsewhere, it might use a molecule similar to DNA to store its genetic information. Therefore, when the James Webb Space Telescope analyzes the atmospheres of distant exoplanets, it is searching for the chemical byproducts of a biology that would be, in essence, a cousin to our own. The search for biosignatures, like the simultaneous presence of oxygen and methane, is a search for evidence of a planetary-scale metabolism driven by a system of genetic replication. The discovery of DNA on Earth provides the template for the kind of complexity we expect to find if we ever detect life elsewhere. It has transformed our quest from a blind search for little green men into a sophisticated chemical investigation for the universal signatures of living, information processing systems. One of the most profound consequences of the discovery is the realization that the genetic code is nearly universal across all known life on Earth, from bacteria to blue whales. This strongly suggests that all life on this planet shares a common ancestor, a single primordial organism that first used this system billions of years ago. If we were to find life on Mars or Europa, one of the first and most critical questions would be whether it uses the same DNA-based code or a completely different one. Finding a second, independent genesis of life with a different genetic system would be arguably the most shocking discovery in biology, proving that DNA is a local solution to the problem of heredity, not a universal one. The discovery of the double helix was not an invention, but an unveiling. The mechanism of life had been operating for 3.5 billion years before we stumbled upon it. We simply had to develop the right tools, like X-ray crystallography, and the right conceptual frameworks to finally see the elegant logic written into our own cells. It is a testament to the power of pure, curiosity-driven science, where the quest to answer a fundamental question about the natural world can lead to technologies and insights that were completely unimaginable at the outset. The journey from a fuzzy X-ray image to modern gene therapy highlights the unpredictable and revolutionary path of scientific discovery. This journey also mirrors the parallel story of our exploration of the cosmos, a path that moves from the microscopic to the macroscopic in a quest for understanding. By unraveling the secrets of the molecules that build us, we gain the knowledge to search for our counterparts among the stars. The same force of human curiosity that prompted Watson and Crick to build their metal models now drives the engineers who build space telescopes. We are, after all, made of star stuff, and the code that directs our assembly is a product of the universal laws of chemistry and physics that we are now exploring on a galactic scale. We now stand at a pivotal moment in history, transitioning from an age of biological discovery to an age of biological intervention. We can read the book of life with ease. We are learning to edit its sentences with increasing precision, and we are beginning to contemplate how to write entirely new chapters. This newfound power carries with it an immense responsibility to use it wisely, ethically, and for the benefit of all. The future of life on this planet, and potentially others, is increasingly becoming a matter of human choice, a reality that would have seemed like pure science fiction just a few decades ago. The discovery of DNA structure is the ultimate story of human self-discovery, a narrative that connects every person, every plant, and every animal on Earth into a single, unbroken family tree. It revealed that the astonishing diversity of the living world is scripted in a single, elegant, and universal language. This discovery has given us the power to heal the sick, feed the hungry, and peer into our own deep evolutionary past. In cracking the code of life, we did not find a final answer, but rather an infinite series of new and more profound questions about our nature, our origins, and our ultimate destiny in a universe that may yet be filled with life.